So I need to conserve my
You
stuff.
can so welcome, welcome, welcome. We're live, and now so you guys be quiet. All that good stuff that you were just sharing. So Don Baarns, Johnny Heller, Mr. Deere with a funky spelling. I don't know these people with bad spellings, but we'll talk about that in just a minute. We have a great guest. We have two great guests here, Mr. Heller and Mr. Deere. And so Johnny, I know I always love to kick this off, and I know that you two go back about 50 years. Is that correct? You went to grade school together?
Yeah, we met at a trailer park where,
Yeah. Okay,
Tom's
good.
family was busy selling methamphetamine to the locals, and, yeah, so it's been love ever since.
I
That
got my
makes
teeth back, so
perfect
Yeah.
sense. So now Tom and I met approximately 5 years ago, and I'm guessing that you guys go back about 10 years, 12 years,
at least
15?
did 2011, 2012. I think when I attended
Yeah.
my first APA mixer, which I think is around 2011. So yeah, it's been closing in on 15 years of bliss.
Yeah, and you haven't paid up your friendship fees yet. I was gonna remind you. Yeah. Yeah.
I know.
So Tom, you do something that if I remember right, I know you've done theme parks. Like everybody's done that, so that's not worth talking about. Like if you go to a theme park and you hear well, please, yeah, if you're over 4 feet tall, then you can't ride this ride.
You're
And
the guy that kept me off the rides.
and,
Sorry.
it could be
Actually, yeah.
Tom that is
Well, actually,
voicing that. And you are
well,
actually at the parks watching the people go by and saying, "Oh, Mr. Baarns, you do not belong here." Correct? Is that what you do?
sure, that's exactly what I do. What actually I did was I am the voice of the American High Striker Extreme, which is like the modern digital version of the test your strength with the hammer and the
Oh,
thing to
yeah.
hit the bell. So like actually I am that I am that voice actually.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And then you've also done some things on strategy related to voiceover actors. Is that correct?
I dabble.
You dabble.
Uh, yeah. I have been a voiceover business and marketing consultant coach since late 2011. So closing it on 14 years. So my branding is the VO strategist, voiceover strategist. So as a voiceover business and marketing consultant, I help voice actors of all experience levels navigate the confusing and ever-changing world that is the voiceover industry. My logo is the compass. So my job is to help give everybody a compass to help them make their way through the
Ugh,
weirdness that is the
ugh,
voiceover world.
ugh. A compass. What is a compass?
The
Here's
thing
the
on
funny
your
thing. Now,
phone to help you find stuff and not get
by
lost.
the way, I do kind of know I know what that is. I was a Cub Scout, so I know what that is. Um,
Oh,
but
okay.
but the question, I'll bet that there are people because if you've had a nav system your whole life, you may not know what a compass is.
Yeah. Yeah. There are compass apps. So if you are lost in the woods and you
And
still use your
and you get a
phone,
cell signal.
you can get a cell signal. So it may be a downloadable one. So
Okay.
I'd say if you guys want to live, check your phones and see if you can have a downloadable compass app that does not require a Wi-Fi connection, and that could save your life next time you get lost hiking.
Oh, yeah,
Oh.
that's big for me in LA. I hike all the time
Oh, do
regularly.
you now?
Yeah, yeah, no. Uh, so, yes, I do, I do. I hike all the way from my office up to where I have to
Out there,
eat.
yeah.
He has to change his shoes a few times.
Yes.
I hike in
Has to wear
Central
the
Park,
tread
and
out.
as you know, the lanterns there will give you the advice of where you are, the number system. You should
It has there's a number system, so you know what street you're
you
closest
know
to,
what you're near,
right?
but you gotta look up how good there's nothing you have to Google, you need the internet to Google how the number system works,
Mhm.
but you can or you can just look and recognize the various there's the Ghostbusters building, therefore you must be west, and that's uptown. That's how you do it.
That's a
So,
good landmark.
before we came on air, we were yapping and throwing, harsh rhetoric at each other about, AI.
It
Like,
was vicious.
I think Tom is AI.
Yeah.
So, so
Well,
that's
Because nobody this wonderful could be real.
let's
yeah.
do our breaking news. Hello, America, and all the ships at sea. You are there. So,
Flash!
so, so we know whether you've looked at the Congress, and I know that many of our community in the voiceover world sent notes to their various horrible representatives in Congress, and I know that the folks from NAVA, Tim Friedlander and Corinne Gilfrey, and those folks went to Washington a number of times to lobby Trump wanted to have no AI moratorium or laws or anything. But I'll be as basic as I can for
Yeah.
like 10 years. Just let it run rampant, which
Yes.
would have been a devastating blow to voiceover and creative people across the board. And we have defeated the idea that you can't rule on, you can't have AI legislation. You
Oh,
can, and we will. That's
yeah.
as basic. That sounds basic. Does that sound about right?
That's about as basic as you can get. I'll
Yeah.
add a little bit more to that, is
Yeah.
that I think it was Senator Cruz of Texas was spearheading this, and I believe the rationale was to stay competitive with China because they are going to be investing heavily in AI, and I know they already have. Um, and So it was a 10-year moratorium
Yeah.
on AI regulation, and there was a Blackburn, I think it's the senator from Tennessee, whose same state, coincidentally or not coincidentally, has the Elvis Act, which is gives protection against artists and musicians and artists against predatory AI practices. And whole thing fell apart. I only read the article just within the past hour, so forgive me if this isn't 100% correct. Is that what the problem really started to be, is that if there's a moratorium on AI regulation, it's more about a consumer protection perspective, because like if there is no AI legislation or regulation, that means your children, for example, can be deep faked and horrible things all over the internet without any legal recourse, and among a bunch of other horrible things, obviously up to and including predatory AI practices
Yeah.
against voice actors like Johnny and myself, and with no legal recourse. So it was voted down. It was removed from the big beautiful will 99-1.
Yeah, because it was overly broad to say you can't have anything. There
Right.
certainly needs to be some regulation, and
Right.
so we have to balance the fact that AI is coming, like smartphones came in, and there is value in it.
Yes.
So there's going to be some, and we're competing worldwide. So there's this balance, but 10 years was too long, and 10 years of, hey, wild, wild west, uh,
Won't work. Yeah.
too much, too much, too
Right.
much. But we will also have the flip side, and this is going to be discussed, and we're going to have a discussion about it. So where do you come down on this, Tom? What have you been tracking with it?
Well, AI is a tool like any other. It's it's a disruptive form of technology. I mean, almost most technology by definition is disruptive,
Right.
because whatever is created now is going to have some form of effect on what has been created before now. So the analogy I always give is that AI is disrupting, for example, the voiceover industry in the same way that streaming has been disrupting the television and film industry, the same way that cable television disrupted network television, the same way that television disrupted radio, the same way that radio disrupted theater, the same way that theaters disrupted minstrel shows or whatever the hell came before theater. So everything that comes along is going to have a ripple effect on what has come before. So the question is, are you the disruptor or are you the disrupted? And if you are the disruptor, like the people who are making this technology, they're obviously profiting from it, and that's all great and wonderful. You make new technology, it makes people's lives easier, you get rewarded through that monetarily. Fine. Capitalism, totally, totally cool. But it's when the disrupted, when it causes economic or social or political or logistical instability, that's obviously a problem, and that's where the voiceover community, for many, many good reasons, is having problems being on the disrupted end of all of this stuff.
Well,
So yeah.
as you know, I've always been sort of negative about it, but I've rethought it, having with discussions with you and Don and others about just things, and I think it's a mistake, a bad mistake to say I'm against AI, to a blanket statement, because you're basically saying I'm against science, I'm against new thoughts, I'm against progress, because not AI in and of itself isn't good or bad as it is. Don was mentioning prior to our opening of the show all the helpful things it can do, and indeed, whether people think about it or not, but we use those apps on your phone to help you drive. That's all AI. AI is a problem um, when it's misused, when it's used to abuse creative artists
Yeah.
and other creative people, when it's used to steal ideas, when it's used to replace an artist, an actual living human being. And that's not its function. That's not its idea. It, as Tommy said, is a tool which needs to be worked on, helped. I mean, we've all seen, and I've made this comment a bunch of times. We've all seen the movies where in the future when your vacuum kills you and takes over the world. That's that AI nightmare when all this stuff can happen. But
Mhm.
to think AI, to say it's I'm against AI is like saying I'm against cancer research. I'm against it. Just it doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
It exists,
We'll
so
all
you
have to
can't.
deal with it.
Yeah, you have to. If you don't like it, fine. But I promise you, it's the same people say they don't like socialism, but then complain when the city doesn't plow the streets or fix the potholes. Yeah, that is socialism. I'm not here to have a political show. Hey,
Mhm.
oh God, I'd love it, but I'm not. But we have to recognize. Look, we've been using AI in one form or another for a long time. It's when AI encroaches into the arts
And
in
it's
such
going
a
to.
way that it lessens the human nature of the art.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's what I think we're all saying, "No, no, we're against that."
Well,
Right.
and yesterday, last night, I actually watched a YouTube video. Can you believe that? And
No.
the
Oh,
person has had a show on music. It's a music show, and it
is
was the
it
first
Mr.
time.
Beato?
What's that?
Is it Mr. Beto? Mr.
Yes, yes, yes,
Beato?
yes. And he had
Mhm.
his
I know
first,
exactly what you're
and he
talking
and
about.
he and he had his first show where he said, "All right, this band is on Spotify, had 400,000 streams now, and right now it might be the first AI album that is a," and he's trying to figure out, is this AI? Is this real people? And we don't know yet. I mean, it's still one of these things, but you listen to the results and you're kind of thinking, darn, if it's all AI, it's the first time there's been a whole album where you are not sure whether it's AI or whether it is a true band or somebody, but somebody doing all the prompting and having to
Right.
figure out how to create a dozen songs that are indistinguishable by. And here's the one takeaway from it: if you are not a musician, I will just say you would have no chance of noticing and picking out and saying this is not a real band.
Mhm.
If you are a musician and have the ears, you're listening to it going, there's a possibility that it's AI. I mean, it's so close, and there are
Much
some
the same
things
was
in.
said about Milli Vanilli when they came
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Well,
I blame it on the rain.
yeah. So and now, and I'm experimenting with AI to do other things that are outside of like I used to code for a living. So I used to write, I'd write programs for a living when I was in my 30s. And um and I'm now working with some AI tools to do some coding now, and there's some things it can do for me in 10 minutes that would take me 10 months,
Mhm.
because I would have to accumulate a knowledge base for something that I really don't use, and I'm going to use it once for this one little section, and it's able to do something in 10 minutes that I really would require months of study to get to the point where I could build this one little component that I'll never build again, but I need it for this.
Mhm.
And it's just like, I look at it and go, unbelievable. So it's a force multiplier, and it's a disruptor at a level that I've never seen in my life. Um, and we're gonna have to deal with it. I'm still, I go back and forth with swearing at the darn thing. My wife, Lisa, goes, "How are you and Al doing today?" That's our AI.
Al?
Because, yeah, she calls it Al just because it looks like Al. AI looks like Al in some fonts. So,
Nice.
how are you and Al? I go, that son of a. I'm swearing at it because
Right.
it's taken
Uh,
me off, and it's in the deep end of. But I'm watching it evolve over the last 6 months, and there are things that 2 months ago it was totally effing up and messing with me, and all of a sudden a revision comes out and it's like, oh, it's got that, it's doing
yeah,
that right without me having to micromanage it.
right.
And if it continues at the pace that it's evolving, not only is it going to create music, but it's going to do some things that are way beyond what I ever would have been able to do. So as an assistant, I'm exploring it to see what it can do. and all of us will end up embracing it. And the same way as, I don't know, my mom, I love my mom. Okay. In her 80s. So we got to get that up front. Um, uh, I have not been able to get her to consistently use her nav system. And it's like, if you go to Trader Joe's, please use the nav system. I know you know how to get to Trader Joe's from your house because it's simple.
Right.
But that experience will allow you then, if you wanted to go to, say, Wendy's or, bad example. But anyways,
Love Wendy's. That's a great example.
go to Home Depot, where my mom likes to go for some odd reason as an 80-year-old, but she loves Home Depot. Um, she could go to a different one if the store by her didn't have something, but the other store did. It's only about, it's like 10 miles the other direction. She could never get there on her own. But the nav system, you have to use it in order to be able to use it when you need it. And she just fights against it and goes, I can't learn this. It's like, oh, Mom, you've learned so much over your lifetime. You could handle nav.
Yeah.
But
I've
it's a
got some,
disruptor,
yeah,
but it's
I've
also
got
a
some,
helper.
I have some things to share in
Go.
the form of links and conversation for all of this stuff. It all depends on whatever this is. Okay. Oh, I put it in our chat. I'll put this link in
Send it to me.
the YouTube chat. Can I
Okay.
actually get in there?
I don't know. You probably can.
I cannot.
So I'm having a problem with the software that displays it on our screen today.
Okay. Well,
I
put it in our chat. So if you could post
Okay,
that.
I'll grab that.
Liz Atherton, casting director of Tag Talent, she posted an ebook last night. So it's very short. It's a 22 page ebook, and it's fascinating. It's called The Impact of AI on the VO Solopreneur, a real talk about artificial intelligence, money, and your voice acting business. This is an extremely thoughtful, nuanced, open-minded conversation that she's having that's packed with a lot of data and information and good, useful resources and tools for voice actors in a very short bit of text. I encourage everybody to read it. What I like best about it is you don't know what her view is on it. So she was very, at least publicly, agnostic about the whole thing, which I, as the VO strategist, am a big proponent of, because my job is to give my students data so they can make informed decisions about every part of their voiceover business and every aspect of their, business model, and, what they want to do regarding AI or pay to plays or home recording or, or agents or whatever. So I encourage everybody to read it. There's a lot of really, really good stuff in there.
Cool. I'll grab that.
Other thing I want to say is that I was watching I don't know, it may have been, was it Neil deGrasse Tyson's Star Talk or another article or whatever regarding the limits of AI. And it's showing a very interesting limit right now when it comes to human logic and reasoning. Are either of you familiar with the Tower of Hanoi game?
No.
Sure.
Okay.
No, I'm not.
I'm going to post the link here.
Hey, Don, let me ask you a quick question, right? But let me, you see how we're all shaking, kind of like a bad Benny Hill show?
I don't know. I don't think that's
okay.
going out to the stream, but I can't
Okay,
tell.
just curious. I keep looking, and Tom and I are both going.
Yeah, so there's two.
I had a
you're
donut
seeing on the
before we got
internal
on
one.
here, so I'm full of sugar. So that's why I got the
I'm sorry. So the
jitters.
Tower of Hanoi, Tommy.
Basically, it's a game, and there's like 3 sticks, and there's like 3 like plastic rings on each of them, and you're supposed to move all of them in order from one stick to the other. It's a very basic logic game. And the more rings that you put on the stick, the harder it is to be able to do it in a certain sequence, to be able to get all the rings from one stick to the other. And if you go to your favorite AI bot, whether it's Chat GPT, Gemini on Google is my personal favorite one, and you have them do this game, it does it swimmingly, perfectly, until about 8 rings, and then it completely falls apart. So there are limits. So it's got certain, what it's really good at is finding information, collating it, and sharing it with you, or doing something a lot faster than we could do, which is great. It's a great tool. But when it comes to the actual, AI possessing our vacuum cleaners and killing us, there's a certain gap that, at least as technology stands today, it's not capable of getting to, because the whole thing with the AI is killing us all is when they come to the conclusion through logic and reasoning that we are obsolete or a threat. And that's when it will do horrible things to us. Just by showing this simple Towers of Hanoi test that it caps at 8 and then it crashes should give people some comfort that, what is Cyberdyne and the Matrix and all that stuff isn't going to be destroying the human race, at least not for a while.
Yeah. So go ahead and make those Broadway show plans. Yeah.
Yes, you should be okay for a bit.
Yeah. Now, Don, let me ask you another question. And this is because we weren't sure about a guest at all today until Tommy. Thanks for joining us at the last minute like that.
Sure.
Is there a live audience right now?
Oh, yeah. I can see it now. There's chats coming in and people
Okay,
are...
I'm just curious. What's okay. So I wanted to. I don't want to quit the AI thing, but I want to make a whole hour about this. I want to. Tom and I were talking. We had lunch yesterday. We actually are friends. And one of the things we talked about, I have been reading. Because we're on social media, we've all been reading reports, news, information from our fellow voice actors. Especially, I'll be honest, especially more established ones, it seems to be, are kind of complaining that there's not a lot of work. And many of them have been something close to fallow for a month or 2 or 3. And so Tom and I were discussing it, and I think it's worth bringing up here and discuss, A, what potentially is going on, and B, what can we do? We can all put our heads together to try and create efforts. So I will say this. And nothing. It hasn't slowed up for me. So I know that there are people for whom it is slowing up, people for whom it isn't, and I don't know why not me. But I'm happy that it isn't. But I'm sorry that some of you guys aren't getting the work that you used to. I will say this: Johnny. I've talked to a lot of casting people, a lot of publishers, and I wouldn't say an edict has been passed down, but there is a stronger movement than in the past to find newer voices. And I think this is a product, not so much of being tired of what Don Baarns or Johnny Heller or Tom Dheere sound like, as much as it is authors are far more involved in the casting process than ever before. And in the past, when Don Baarns was a casting director, he said, "I've got here's the 3 I think would be best for you: Johnny Heller, Tom Dheere, and Phil Thron. Those are the 3. Here's the voices." And and normally the guy would pick between those 3. Well, now they say, "No, I need more." So Don's going, "Damn, these are the guys." So then he goes and finds some, and authors aren't actors. A lot of the people who cast us aren't actors, have no theatrical background whatsoever. Most of them have an engineering background. So they like what they hear, and they also like people who can get the job done. Professional people who can do it on time and do a great job. They don't necessarily know great acting, or they might know it when they see it or hear it, but they don't know how to define it. Authors know perhaps even less. They know the voice they heard in their head when they wrote the characters and they wrote the story. There's no way to know if Tom Dheere, a great storyteller, is the voice Don had in his head when he wrote the Don Baarns drummer story. And so that's part of the issue. You have to understand in acting in general, we're competing against people's imaginations almost. No matter how good you are, if you don't sound like their best friend from 2nd grade who's the hero of their book, it has nothing to do with you. It's what they want to hear. So that's one problem. That is an insurmountable problem because you can only sound like you sound, and there's no way to know what's in their head. So that's one thing. The push of new voices, one. The drive to please or to placate authors who have a specific sound in their head. And I think also there's always new people coming in, and this industry has always, and I'm speaking specifically audiobooks now, but audiobooks in the voiceover industry in general tends to attract people who have been told by others with malice or sweetness in their heart that they sound great, that they have a good voice. And that somehow that's a substitute for being able to act. I'm certain it isn't, but there's a lot of people with good voices who are flooding the market with their good voices, and offering cheaper work, cheaper on every level, cheaper what it costs, cheaper what it sounds like. But if it's good enough, it's good enough. That's one of the things that comes back to the AI thing. If you accept as a listener of the person, the end user of any voiceover art effort, if you accept less than wonderfulness, you're part of the problem.
Well, and so there's a question that came in that you can't see on the screen, but I have to read it. So Chris Walsh asked, I'm negotiating with an author who used ACX's virtual voice for his previous 2 fiction books. That shocks me. A nonfiction, I would have been fine. I'm willing to bet that on a cost basis, I won't get the gig. Tips for adding value. So what are we going to do when, if this author who has 2 books up there, first off, any author that has 2 books that have gone through virtual voice and he or she is happy with that, I'll just say he in this case, um, he just first may or may not. That doesn't, just because they made them doesn't mean they sold. And 2, if I wrote a book on, how to clean my cement in my patio, and I want my friends to know that I also have an audiobook version of it, then those virtual voices might be just good enough for my non-bestseller that only my friends and family aren't buying. But nobody knows that. I still want to go when I go out to dinner and tell my new potential date, which would piss off my wife, what I've got a book and it's in audio format. And so some of it you're not going to fight against just because you have somebody whose book never should have been published to begin with, and their audiobook definitely isn't going to sell anything. So you may have dodged a bullet if that's the direction they go. But how do we add value so that when the good books are out there, they understand that we can add something that the AI can't? Either of you want to take on that?
Tom, you want to go first? Because I'm happy to jump in after or before.
Sure. I mean, I'll give an example of what I've seen other voice actors do on a marketing level, is that audiobook or other voiceover genres is they'll call the company and they'll listen to their phone tree, and the voice is terrible. Not necessarily AI, but just maybe somebody that works there and they just did a craptastic job on it. Or they see a local cable commercial for, the pizzeria, and the voiceover is just dreadful. What a number of voice actors will do as a marketing ploy is that they will transcribe whatever that audio is, record it themselves, and then contact the client and say, hey, so I saw that commercial for your pizzeria, and the voiceover, I apologize if it was you or your nephew or somebody, but it was definitely lacking. I took the liberty of recording it myself so you could hear what it sounds like from a professional, engaging, trained voice. Here, you can even have it. Some people may do that, or say, or here, I only did the first half of it. And if this interests you, here's my rates. Maybe we can figure something out so people can hear the difference between an amateur voice and a professional voice. So just demonstrating this is the quality of what you could be getting. So maybe if we take that into this situation, maybe have an AI sample of a couple of paragraphs of that book, and then you, the trained human, interesting human, narrating the same part of it, and just doing a little side-by-side comparison, saying like, here's the difference. Now, if the author can't tell the difference or doesn't care about the difference because of cost, then it was fruitless. But that could make the difference.
What your example, which I think is wonderful and fine idea, also, however, supposes that the actor in question is trained enough to be better than the AI.
Well, there's that.
So there's that. I'll say something else is going on too. If you work for publishers, anywhere from Dion to Harper to Simon and Schuster to anybody to Fright Night Audio, anything, look, they appreciate human actors. So those guys you don't have to convince. But when you're in these negotiations with individual authors for their book or books or book series, once again, it's absolutely integral, that you, that's one of my examples, that you know what you're talking about, that you know the process. Look, if you go with me, here's how it goes. Because in terms of performance, here's AI, here's Johnny, here's AI, here's Tom. Here, so look, in terms of presenting yourself as better than AI, let's assume that you are. Now let's go forward on that. The next thing is, look, if you ask the author, what's your hobby? Let's say they like golf. They're golfers. What kind of clubs are they using? I'll bet you they spent money on really good clubs because you get what you pay for. Find out what they like to do. Find out what their hobbies. What kind of TV is in their house? What kind of sound system? What kind of car do they drive? Because if we all know that every time you try to save some bucks, either on a T-shirt, a pair of glasses, a new vacuum, if you save money by buying a crappy piece of equipment or anything, it falls apart. It doesn't do the job. When you spend the money that it costs for the good stuff, it's worth it. Look at the people who dress nice. Look at the people who drive nice cars. Why did they do it? It's a better, a BMW is going to be better than a Yugo. It's just how things are. So
Yeah.
you need to make that case too. And I think that makes a lot of sense. But after a while, don't beat your head against the wall. An author who allows AI to be their messenger, it's problematic to begin.
I agree. I mean, should your AI voice be used to be the weather reporter on an app, or giving you baseball scores on an app, or doing some basic telephony on a phone? Yeah, I think that's fine, as long as there's consent control and compensation, just like Nava always extols, as well as they should. But for an audiobook, nonfiction or fiction, yeah, not so much. And the other point that Johnny made is, like, and I'll say this in my words, is that there are a couple of classifications of voice actors that are going to get behaved out of the voiceover industry in relation to AI. Those who are just not good storytellers. They either don't have that storytelling gene, or they did not take the time or money or effort to have their storytelling gene realized through quality training with voiceover coaches. So if you're just on a talent or storytelling level not better than AI, you're done. You're out. The other thing is that somebody said this somewhere, I think on LinkedIn last year, is that is marketing, is AI going to destroy marketing? And somebody answered, the marketers who use AI are going to stay around, and the marketers who don't use AI are not going to stay around. This is a tool that a lot of people are going to get involved with, and if you refuse to use it as a tool to increase the quality or quantity or efficacy of your marketing efforts, you will be left behind, because AI catalyzes and facilitates and assists a lot of stuff. And if you don't turbocharge your car and everyone else does, you will literally and figuratively be left in the dust.
Yeah. I would say, though, it would be, my mom fought the smartphone for decades. I mean, she just doesn't want to learn it, and feels like she can't use it. So
That's part of the problem. The feeling that if you have a predilection to not try something new, you can't teach. Yeah, and people say, oh, if you don't want to hook up the Betamax, you're never going to learn how to use it. When my daddy, who passed a couple years ago, we talk on the phone, and my brother and sister, we say, look, we'll get it on your phone. You could FaceTime us. You could see us if you want, or even on your computer. And you go visit, his house in Chicago, and I'd show him how it works. Stuff. And he, this guy was smart up to the end. Simply didn't want to. Either he just didn't really want to see us, or he refused. My Uncle Bill, who's still with us at 98 now down in Florida, FaceTimes me all the time. He likes it.
right.
He likes it. So, and it's not a big deal. You open your phone and you press that button instead of that button, you're FaceTiming. So
Right.
the idea that you can't learn it, won't learn, that's all nonsense. If your mindset is, I don't want to do AI, encroaching on my business. And that was me for a while. Actually, I've had many talks with Tom. And I was like, and he said he started preaching AI, and I just gave him a dirty 2 years ago in New England, he wanted to do something on AI. And
Well,
I gave him a look of death.
I wanted to educate the populace so
Yeah.
they can
Yeah.
make informed decisions.
And I realized after that I was not even willing to be educated. And I said, that is not who I am. So,
Yeah.
but it was a turnaround for me, because so many of us, we're not stuck, but you only hear the bad things, like social media. Pretty horrible in so many ways. It has some good things.
Mhm.
If you concentrate on all the bad stuff, it's awful. But that doesn't mean in and of itself is awful.
Right.
And the same with AI, in and of itself, it's not awful.
I say it's like guns, fire, or polka music. It's not what it is, it's how
Yeah.
you use it to make it
Yeah.
an instrument of good or evil.
Yeah. Polka music, did you say?
Yes,
Like
yes, I
Jimmy
did.
Walega and the Happy Hearts?
Yes,
Yeah.
and
Well,
So
you know, for things that are not in your wheelhouse, uh, this is embarrassing, but I learned how to make an omelet for the first time in the last month here, when my wife was out of town visiting my grandchild and my son, and uh, and I had, for some reason, while I cook, there's a bunch of things I do cook. She's made omelets since, you know, since we got married, and she's always done it great, and so there's never any reason for me to do it. I make a bunch of other eggs, and I'm pretty
yeah.
good at them, by the way. I just tell you that up front. But the omelet, I had just never made it. So what did I
Yeah.
do? I pulled up Chat GPT and said, I want to make an omelet. I have these ingredients. What are the best practices for doing it? And
Mm,
it fed me back a set of instructions and best practices that I could have gone and watched 16 videos, but it did pull up and put in a couple of paragraphs. Here's how to do it. Here's what to watch out for, because I ask it for best practices. And to be honest with you, they're still not at her caliber, because she's done
Yeah.
4,000 of them.
Yeah.
But for my four, it was pretty amazing that, all right,
Yeah.
I just thought I'd use it and it turned out great.
you
And
didn't
I go to
poison
YouTube.
yourself, so mission accomplished.
Yeah.
yeah,
I go to YouTube all the time to learn how to cook different things. I
yeah,
have that Ninja Foodie, which I think is the most fantastic thing. But I learned how to cook new things in it. I look at the videos. I will be honest with you guys. Two things. One, here's how Luddite I am. What is it?
GPT. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't even know how to I don't know what that is or how to find
Doesn't
it.
know how to spell ChatGPT.
yeah.
Huh?
Doesn't.
I don't know. You said you went to I don't know. I wouldn't know where to go.
Yeah, there's
And someone says,
perplexity. So there's a set of tools. That's the thing, though. So you're normal. I mean, I know you're special, but you're also
yeah,
normal. And in the beginning, so there's a set of tools. Name uh, let's see. I don't know the difference between an iPhone and Android, which should be fine for my mom. She's not going to know those.
hmm,
And so what I need to do is, I don't need to know it. I need to be able to know that I could call Tom Dheere and say, hey, I hear there's 2 or 3 of these things. What do you recommend I start with, and get one of
yeah,
them working and get comfortable with one of them. And once you've done one of them, like, I'm in 6 of them that I'm, you know, right now, I'll run the same thing on 6 of them to see which one I feel is doing the right thing or doing something better, and what am I getting good results with, and what is garbage, and learning how to make the most of them for all the things in life that are not in my core. And then how could it help me with the core stuff that I need
yeah.
to do, to put out an email if I need to? What could it do to help me there? And how, and
There's all these cool things that gadgets do for you,
right.
and people like me simply aren't aware. Like the iPhone has all these new emojis and genmojis and the internet. People say like, say this or type this into the phone and let it finish something for you. I don't know what they're talking about. And I'm not stupid. I just don't people hear about these things. It seems to be what everybody's doing, and no one ever sends me the in-office email to tell me what it is. I find out years after something's done. If you guys know there was a pet rock, I had no idea. You know,
You didn't know
stuff
about
like
the
that.
pet rock?
Yeah, Garbage Pail Kids didn't know about them. Yeah.
Oh, you were doing grown-up stuff
Yeah.
around that time.
Yeah. But
So,
there's a lot of stuff that I just don't know, but you guys who are involved, tech stuff, you've got your ear to it, and you're everything new thing. Don's creating new things all the time. All the time. I find I'm blown away by what that he can do. Just seriously.
Well,
And Tom Deere is the voiceover strategist. If you guys want a strategy for your business, for your career, just take an hour. He has oodles and oodles and oodles of articles and blogs and videos that tell you pretty much anything you want to know, which is why I mentioned I wanted Don and I to just ask Tom some questions. You guys have an idea of the kind of things that happens in a session. And Tom, if these aren't session-like questions, or if we ask things that people need to pay for and you don't want to tell us, totally understandable. I don't want to take away any proprietary stuff.
sure.
But let me give you an example of something I'm working on.
Mhm,
Don and I had Bridget Real on our show,
mhm,
who runs VA for VO, virtual
mhm.
assistants for voiceover people. And I told her I was going to hire her and I was going to do it. And I still haven't gotten around to it because I have an e-learning demo, which is really good.
Mhm.
J. Michael Collins, I paid him a oodles of loot to make it. It's really nice. And it's funny and it's good and it's there. What I don't have is time to market.
Mm.
And I certainly don't know how. I don't wanna get in the phone with a, and start calling businesses, say, "You don't need a voiceover guy, do you?" I don't wanna do that. I don't
No.
know how it works, but somebody
Yeah.
does.
Okay.
So here's me, brand new. I've got this great e-learning demo, and I'm super talented. I can do it all the time. What strategy? What do I do? Do I need a virtual assistant? Do I want one?
Okay. All right. So I'm going to give you the advice, and yes, this would be normally something that one would pay for. So this would be free advice I normally charge for. All right.
Okay,
So the first thing I
I'll
tell,
take you to lunch again.
okay, can we go to Parm again?
Yes.
Oh, the place is so good.
I know,
Best
it's
roast
great.
beef sandwich I ever had yesterday. It was amazing.
And
Um,
cannolis.
and the cannolis are mwah.
Whoa.
All right. So what I tell my students when they come with me saying, "Hey, I've got this new demo. How do I market it?" Okay. So what I have them do, I tell them that you need to zoom out to get a broader idea of what the voiceover universe looks like. And I break it down into a couple of different sections: genres, e-learning versus commercial versus audiobook, and then subgenres of those, cozy mystery versus erotica or whatever in the respective genres, and non-broadcast genres. We're talking informational non-broadcast content like an e-learning module or a compliance training or a telephony, a phone tree or things like that. So you look at the genre of the voiceover demo that you have, and then you want to reconcile that with what I call portals. I've noticed in my 30 years of voiceover that there are basically 3 portals in the voiceover industry that connect voice actors to voiceover opportunities or casting opportunities. And in the voiceover industry, the 3 are representation. So we're talking agents, managers, casting directors. We're talking online casting sites, both free and pay to play. And then we're talking self-marketing strategies like direct marketing, like the cold call, or indirect marketing, like a blog. So you want to look at that genre of demo and then run it through the test of each of these 3 portals. So the way I think of it this way is when you're building your voiceover business, think of these portals as sinks. You're installing these sinks in your home, and then you have to hook up the sink to a source of some sort. Normally it would be water through a pipe system, but you need to hook this up to a system. So when you turn the spigot, what comes out? Voiceover opportunities, auditions, networking opportunities, marketing opportunities. And your job is to catch as many of them in the basin as you can to try to book as much voiceover work as possible, right? So with that analogy in place, e-learning, let's look at it through the representation portal. Do reps cast e-learning projects? The answer is a little kind of yes, sort of, but not very often. Why? Because agents and managers are more interested in broadcast content because there's more money in it because of usage fees from your spot that you narrate being on television or the radio or streaming or digital. E-learning, informational, non-broadcast content almost ever has any kind of or, a quantifiable usage fee. You get paid once, that's it. So reps don't do e-learning most of the time. I have booked some e-learning type stuff through reps, but that's not what they're in it for. They're in it for the broadcast content with usage fees. So I would not, as the VO strategist, recommend that you talk to your agents or try to get an agent in an effort to market an e-learning demo. Okay. So we put that one over here. So now you look at the online casting site portal. There are free online casting sites that are both voiceover centric and non-voiceover centric. Like ACX, for example, is a audiobook voiceover centric free casting site, right? Fiverr is also it's a freelance site. There are voiceover opportunities on there of all genres, including audiobooks. So that's one way, and then there's the pay to play sites, the Voice123, voices.com, VO Planet, Badalgo, et cetera, where you have to pay some form of subscription to get on a tier to get access to the content. So look at your e-learning demo in the context of free and casting sites and pay to play sites. There is e-learning work all over this portal. It's everywhere. There is a potential to find e-learning work using both free sites and pay to play sites. Now, the question for Johnny, I'm not asking you a question, I'm telling everybody. The question for Johnny is, how does he navigate that as a SAG-AFTRA union member in good standing? So the question is, can you find jurisdictional, collectively bargained e-learning work on free casting sites or pay-to-play sites that are of a high enough pay rate to cover the collectively bargained agreement for the session fee, whatever the studio fee is, right? And to be able to contribute to your health and pension, right? So that means
Did you know that
Johnny
there are AI
should
tools that
be
can
making sure
instantly
that he knows what his
Top
SAG-AFTRA
5 free AI
co-ed
website
category
builders
1
to
and
create
category 2
$10,000
rate,
websites.
you
Hold
know,
on just a
numbers
second.
are.
Hold on.
Over
Hold
the
on.
last
Yes.
month, I've tested more
That's my
than
fault.
20 different
I got
AI
something
going
website
on over
builders,
here.
and only 5 of them are
That's-
able to create
that's making
$10,000
noise, and I gotta
websites.
shut it
So
down.
today, I'm
Hold
going
on.
to share those 5
Yeah.
AI website
That's
builders that
going
help
down
you create.
here. That's going down there. I got it. See, I'm watching something on my control panel that's saying there's something, and I'm shutting down a bunch of stuff on my end just to make sure you sound good.
Sure.
Tell your end to shut up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So
Okay.
those are all. So now that should help. Okay. So
Good.
go ahead and go back and
Okay.
say. So we were talking about.
So Johnny needs to
SAG-AFTRA.
look at his SAG-AFTRA collectively bargained agreements, specifically the corporate educational or co-ed category 1 and category 2 voiceover work. Category 1 is basically stuff that's private in an office space, in a school, you know, think that's private content for a small dedicated audience. Cat 2 is the front-facing public stuff that you would hear Johnny at the overhead at a shopping mall or a basketball game or a bus station or things like that.
Probably a
So
bus station.
we're just, you know, all passengers boarding for the Schenectady, you know, Route 203, you know.
Visit
please-
me, install 3.
Oh God, that's a whole other thing. Anyway, so Johnny, through his SAG-AFTRA membership status, needs to look at what are the budgets for these free casting sites and for the budgets for, you know, pay-to-play sites. From experience and observing all this stuff for a long time, there's very little e-learning work in the free online casting sites that would be able to cover a SAG-AFTRA co-ed Cat 1 or 2. However, on a Voice 123, of which I am a $2,300, $2,200 tier member, and I work a lot on Voice 123, there is quite a bit of work that you could find that would cover your collectively bargained agreements. So,
And you have your loot sent to a paymaster to make it union, right?
well, there's that's a whole other conversation of things. But
Yeah.
yes, with Voice 123, for example, they have an escrow system where the client can pay you directly through Voice 123, or what 90% of Voice 123 users do is that they take you off site so they don't have to eat the 9% escrow. Your best bet to market, to effectively market an e-learning demo, is to put it on a pay-to-play site like a Voice 123, a Badal, a VO Planet. Get it on there, optimize your profile, and audition your face off. Does this mean you should not do direct marketing? Yes, you should, but everybody and their uncle is marketing vigorously and viciously. So all of these poor companies who only think about us 1.5% of the time, when we think about them 100% of the time, are bombarding them mercilessly with our cold emails and attachment files and cold calls and newsletters and please, please, please hire me. It's just far less effective than it used to be. So I would say I would go with an 80-20 ratio of getting on pay-to-play sites and auditioning for e-learning projects, and 20% of long-term indirect and direct marketing strategies, cold calls, cold emails, blogging, and social media to also develop your online presence.
Can you? Okay. So
Don't
that's
make me,
like
don't tell me I have to say that all over again.
No. What I'd like you to do. So let's
Can you go back to, hi, Tommy, what's going on?
summarize
God's
that in terms of if I
I'll
were
ask
only going.
ChatGPT. Go to ChatGPT and have them summarize that.
If I were going to do one thing, so what would you recommend Johnny do this next week that he probably hasn't thought about doing?
I would research the whole co-ed category of SAG-AFTRA collectively bargained agreements to understand what the rate structure is, to make sure that whatever you do decide to do when a job offer comes along, the budget will cover whatever the CBA is.
Right.
So as not to violate Global Rule 1. That would be step 1 for Johnny as a SAG-AFTRA member. Then I would investigate pay-to-play sites. Then I would then a VA for VO, using Bridget to be able to compile lists of e-learning companies, test developers, and stuff like that that produce content that e-learning narrators could be cast in would be the other part of it. At the same time, go to your website, make sure you've got an e-learning presence on your website, perhaps a landing page, make sure you're blogging about e-learning here and there while maintaining your humanity and engagement and personability, and your social media presence, making sure that people know that Johnny's an e-learning narrator as well.
Interesting. Well, that was helpful. That's great, because it's here. We all are aware voiceover artists are pretty facile in what they can do.
Mm-hmm.
All these genres can happen. For those of you out there in the watching us and watching us later on the YouTube replay, remember that each genre of the voiceover industry, of the performance industry, requires different skill sets, different ways to approach the script, different ways to perform the script, and certainly different marketing ways as well. So it's not as though because you're a good actor, you'll be great in a musical. It's just not that way. And so I need you to be clear when we talk about you're not getting the work that you used to get. Well, sometimes you need to open the door to other opportunities too. It's not, if all you do is automotive ads, automotive commercials, and the work dries up a little bit for some reason, then maybe you got to start branching out from automobiles. It's that simple. And I think that no one ever said this job that we picked, that we're doing, was a given. It's work. It's work to get the work, but it's not you punch in 9 to 5. But I've told all my students and all my people, you should do something positive for your business every day. As simple as that. And it could be on a weekend. Well, geez, it's a weekend. Take time off. No big deal to send a note to somebody. Hey, just thinking of it. There's a million things you can do. And it could be a simple 2-second thing. But if you do something every day, because we in the industry all tend to forget that it's not just Tom Dheere, not just Don Baarns. It's bigger than that. And it's not Tom Dheere hanging out having lunch with Johnny. Tom Dheere wears a lot of hats. He's a VO strategist. He's a coach. He's a teacher. He's a speaker. Don Baarns runs every face group on Facebook. Every group, it's his. And he invents stuff and he does stuff. He's a technical wizard. All these different things that you do. So that's your business.
But nobody's thinking of us.
You're not punching in. What's that, Don?
Yeah, and nobody's thinking of us most of the time unless they run a trip over something that we're doing. And nobody cares about me, and that's fine. I mean, that's the reality. There are other people out there that are doing similar things. There are other voiceover artists, and if they aren't hearing from me, they're going to hear from one of my competitors. And if they're not, and when they want a solution, are those authors thinking of you? Are you top of mind now? Because if I contacted them 2 years ago and now they have their new book out, well, do they even remember that I exist? I mean, if I work with them, maybe, but if I didn't work with them and I was on their radar 2 years ago, that doesn't mean I'm on their radar today. And 400 other people have contacted them or come into their sphere of influence. And so it's a constant battle. Yeah. Will always be that way. I think, does Coke still advertise?
Who?
Coke? Pepsi?
Coca-Cola?
Yeah.
Or the Colombian cartels, which were you referring to?
Yeah, I thought the first one. No, they don't need to. People know.
There's not
product sells itself.
I don't know. I don't drink Coke, so
neither do I. I don't drink sugary soda. Don, because we can't see it because of the setup here, are there more questions because we're getting near the end of our Tom Dheere hour?
One thing Sherry just said, by the way, this is great. I've heard Tom speak before. Start succinct, applicable info and advice. She hasn't watched him very much.
Checks in the mail. Thank you.
But one thing I should point out before we take a few minutes to do this, we talk about other things. But for those of you watching this who are interested in hearing more from Tom and from Don and from me, we'll all be together this October at the New England Narrator Retreat outside Boston, in Framingham, Massachusetts. It's October 13th, 16th. Lisa Ware's working on a new website for me, but I think you can still go to johnnyheller.com or MrJohnnyHeller.com, MrJohnnyHeller.com, and you'll find my site and it's all there. We have some room on site because this year, do you guys remember those cabins, those 4 cabins that were out kind of right outside on the way to the dining room? Those cabins are ours now. And we filled 3 of them. Now you can fit like 15 people, but only 4 people each one because we're adults. But so there's 1 cabin. But because of those cabins and 4 in a cabin, we have some rooms on site, some doubles. I think we have some maybe one or two. I don't know though. We have doubles available. So if you want to share and be on site, if you don't want to, there's an offsite hotel. It's an I want to push it because a lot of voiceover workshops are happening throughout the summer, weekend things or longer things. This is one of the originals. This is our 10-year anniversary this year, and these guys have been apart. Tom has been apart for, if not 10, at least 9 or 8 years.
A lot of them,
And
most of them.
Don 5 or 6 years, I think now, and it's a magical time. It truly is. It's a lot of fun. You learn a lot. You make lifelong friends, I think, and certainly memories that will last at least till the next day's lunch. So that's nice. So there's a lot of wonderful things going on, and I just think that if you want to be a part of it, this is like up with people with booze. It's really a good time, and we're going to have publishers, casting people from Macmillan, Podium. Who am I missing? What did I say? I forgot now. I had to go back and look. Macmillan, Podium. I have to go look at my thing. Who else is? I don't have it in front of me. Who else is there?
I don't know. You always have a
Rin.
half
Rin from
dozen.
Spotify.
Yeah, the thing is that here's the thing. The names are interesting and helpful, but every year I've always been blown away at the quality of the people that they send there that are from the publishers. And when you get a chance to have lunch with some of these people and dinner with them, or sit around the fire and talk to them and find out that they're real people, they remember you, assuming you do it right. And it's an opportunity that it is very hard to get that one-on-one time with some people that you want to know and that'll help you in this business and that have great insights, and they are there to meet people, and it really works out great. It's amazing what happens there. So yeah, Tom.
Oh, I forgot. It's Dreamscape and Spotify and it's RB Media. So there's a chance. There's 4 different publishers there, so it's a good opportunity to do a lot of things.
Yep.
And there's other things going on too. This is in any way to suggest that the other things. I know Jennifer Gillaraya has her thing in Cincinnati, and Joel has his Joel and Rich have the audiobooks at sea. There's a lot of wonderful things. Going on. So this happens to be one of them.
Yeah,
that's fair enough.
So Tom, do you have anything cool that you want to promote coming up?
Well, I mean, I'll be speaking at One Voice in Dallas in August. I'll be presenting at Johnny's retreat in October. I'll give you a link, Don, if you could put it in the if you could put it in there. Is that I and my friend Nadia Marshall, who is a full-time wonderful voice actor, but also specializes in lead generation. We co-produced a mini online course, a micro course called the Voiceover Marketing Intensive, which is 16 micro videos dedicated to direct marketing strategies. In the first 8 videos, she talks about lead generation strategies, specifically how to use Google to your advantage. And then in the second 8 videos, I talk about how to take all those wonderful leads that you found through her strategies and how to market to them effectively. So, and also feel free to go to vostrategist.com and book a free 15-minute consult with me, and I can talk to you about anything related to the voiceover industry.
All right.
And Don, what about, is your big thing ready yet?
That
sounds awful. Is your big thing ready, Don?
It's always getting ready, Johnny. And so I'm going to have a whole showcase for it next week. We're working. I mean, if you knew how many hours a week I work on this, it's crazy. But whatever. I'll show it rather than talk about it. So you'll see it next week. Okay.
Yes.
So
and next week, just we have my namesake Brad Heller will be our guest.
All right. Well,
he's not related.
And then for all the people that have endured all the tech related stuff this week, so I finally found. So today I was looking at all my little meters, and I actually find something here now that is actionable because I have a super high speed internet connection in here, 100% fiber. bandwidth that I've got crazy amounts, and I'm looking at all these things, and all my indicators are right, but I found the one component that is not acting right, and so I'll be able to figure that out for future stuff. So
You fixed
anyway,
it just in time to end
Yeah,
this
just
podcast.
in
Yeah.
time for this.
I know. Well, the thing is the only time you see it is when it's all live, because all the components have to come together at that time. And despite the fact that they're working before or after the show, doesn't guarantee they're working when we need it. And that's the fun of live. And here's the takeaway. I know a lot about tech, and yet that doesn't mean every day everything goes the way I would expect. Johnny knows just a crazy amount, and Tom about narrating. And so they'll go in and they'll have a couple situations where something doesn't work. And what do? They learn from it and they find a way to then make an improvement in whatever they're doing. And so if Johnny runs into a character that throws him, that he doesn't feel when he's done that was the best he could have done, I guarantee you what he's doing is going and talking to another one of his voiceover friends and saying, "Hey, I ran into this one. How do you guys handle this?" I've seen him do it all the time at the retreat, where he goes in and listens to the other coaches and finds a different point of view. He also goes in and is a little bit bothered by Tom telling him about maybe he should check out AI, and then he thinks about it later and says, "Oh, you know what? I also could improve in that area." And it's a constant improvement race for us, for you, and it will never change. And it doesn't matter how good we get at this. Johnny is still working on his craft. Tom is still working on the craft. And I suggest you do the same thing, because it helps you as you move forward, no matter what you do. So we're super happy you're here. I found something on my end that I'm going to improve, and we look forward